Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to be right back with this week's Wednesday Wisdom guest, but as always, we're going to give a shout out to our sponsors. Now, remember, these are all companies that I used as an athletic director. They are all great companies. You should be using them too. So take 3 minutes, listen to our shout outs, then listen to our interview, and then go and visit these sponsors because you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive indoor score tables and video boards for their support. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. You can schedule a live web demo to see their products in action. You've heard me say before, probably one of the best equipment purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com to schedule that demo today. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an AD, I made sure we were a Huddle school. Our coaches, our student athletes, even our parents just love the platform. Go to huddle.com, join the 100 million users, and turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to say thanks to Gipper. Go to Gipper.com, let their team turn you into a social media marketing guru. Whether it's a simple social media post to celebrate a win or an entire newsletter to showcase everything your athletic department's doing, team at Gipper will have you up and running in no time. It's professional graphic design made easy. Go to Gipper.com, and as always, tell them you heard about it on the podcast. We want to thank Hometown. Hometown continues to change the game for athletic directors, for principals, even for coaches, with their solutions that include things like, well, digital ticketing, of course, but how about athletic website construction, fee-free fundraising, and a whole lot more. Go to hometown.com. They're going to show you how to save time, how to raise more money, and how to bring your community together. That's hometown.com. We also want to thank Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. My assistant athletic director, along with thousands of others, got his master's through the Ohio program, and it was a great experience. They also completed their master's degree while they also completed 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. Check out Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. Let's also say thanks to athletic surveys. You know, at my school, we use surveys for everything, for student athletes, for coaches, how about parents? And the information that came back was incredibly valuable and often over the top positive. Reach out to Athletic Surveys. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. We'd also like to thank Beacon Connective and Vital Signs. That's Beacon Creative. Vital Signs Wall of Fame has been helping schools bring their legacy to life for the past decade, but now Beacon Creative adds a content creation component that you don't have to lift a finger for. Just send your data about your student athletes, your programs, your teams to Beacon Creative. They're going to come up with compelling stories that you can then share on your own digital platform. It's Beacon Creative Wall of Fame. I want you to email John, that's John, at beaconwalloffame.com. Check them out today. And as always, mention the podcast. And finally, Home Campus. Home Campus is a platform you're going to use every day, whether it's scheduling, rosters, results. Their eligibility and clearance platform alone is a game changer. Go to homecampus.com, find out all the great things that they can do for you. That's homecampus.com. And make sure you tell them about the podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to another segment of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. Happy New Year to everybody. It's 2026. We've got, there's so many accolades for this particular guest. We're going to start off by saying she's a great friend, longtime administrator, tremendous knowledge. Our guest today is also, she's the all-time leader for episode downloads. Her original interview is well over the 400 mark, and she's been a frequent guest on Wednesday Wisdom. Regular listeners have probably already figured it out. We're talking about our great friend Mahina Hannemann-Gago. She is a certified master athletic administrator. Also, I should say, Dr. Mahina Hannemann-Gago. She's the athletic director at Francis Parker School in San Diego, and we're excited to have her back on the show. Welcome back, Mahina.
Thank you, Jake. Always good to see you and always be here. I appreciate these segments. I know as a new AD and especially as a female AD, it was very hard to find my footing. And I appreciate just things like this that help to not only provide like a mentorship piece, but even just to network. I think that's such a big part of what we do. So I appreciate you having me.
Well, again, right back at you. We appreciate you sharing your wisdom with our listeners. Maybe a little bit of an update. You know, Mahina's done this again a few times in Wednesday Wisdom, also, I think, in our Super Tuesday segment, where she shared her working with student athletes, coaches, and even parents to develop leadership programs to bring, let's say, more continuity to the athletic department. So maybe start out, it's been a while since we've had you on, maybe give just a little bit of a summary of, you know, what you encountered when you became the AD and kind of the why you felt that this was the direction you wanted to go, and then what's going on right now.
Totally. Yeah. So, when I first started, as a student athlete, it was very rare for me to just see somebody who was super involved in the athletic experience. It was very like, okay, cool, we play sports and we're students. There was nothing really attached to that. And then when I graduated high school, went to college, I was first exposed to SAC, the Student Athlete Advisory Council. That program was so impactful for me. It helped me to really understand my identity beyond being an athlete. And when I see so many of my colleagues and my peers who struggle with that, I knew that SAC was going to be something that I absolutely needed to at least give the kids an opportunity to experience what that is, because especially if you do it right and do it in a way where the student perspective is at the forefront of what we do, but then you also give them like real life, let's say, for example, just policies behind why we do what we do. It's like they get the ability to have a voice, understand process, and then together we come up with something that just really makes sense for everybody. So when I got to Francis Parker School, the AD before had already had like a small SAC group, um, but I knew that this was something I absolutely wanted to just make into a more robust program. And so we started super small. I kind of just had it like, okay, whoever wants to come, like, let's see who shows up. And it was up and down. I think too, because a lot of the kids just didn't really know what it was. So the first year was more informative. We talked just really what it meant to be a student athlete, and then even just establishing what the culture and philosophy of Parker Athletics was going to be. And it was a great opportunity for me in my first year to come in and establish that right off the bat. So I was able to get that kind of off the ground. And then last year, we really took it to the next level. I'm glad that our section, so San Diego section, really started to emphasize the importance of SAC on our campuses. And then even our league, the Coastal League, was like, hey, we really need to start doing something with these kids. And so we each as a school have two designated reps. Our reps attend meetings with our CIF commissioner. We have more, so I guess you call it like district level, section level. And then as a coastal league, we have our reps go and meet together as well. So that piece, we kind of mimicked it down to what it currently looks like at our school. So this is year 3 for me. And in our 3rd year, we now have one rep from every sport. And then we have an in-season, we have our regular standing meeting each month, which we call the SAC lunch meeting. And so it takes place during lunch. It's 30 minutes. And that meeting follows our SAC rep meeting. So for example, if we had our SAC rep meeting today, it would be the in-season reps, which me and anywhere from 5 to about 10 reps, we would have our meeting today. And then the following Monday would be our general SAC lunch meeting. But in these meetings, it was so important for me to not run them, but really just sit back and let the kids talk and me really just facilitate conversation and really get them to think about what they want their experience to be. Something we saw last year very quickly. Uh, everyone wants to talk about it. They don't want to actually do it. And so this year we really held them accountable to not just being in these meetings and just talking, but hey, like this requires action. So this year we actually started to collaborate more with our ASB, which is like the student body government. And with that, it's like, when you start to find places on campus who are already doing things to, let's say, get more like student spirit, because that's the biggest talk around here. If there's people already doing it, there's no point in double work. It's just let's collaborate together, let's have double effort and just make this experience something that the kids actually want to be part of. And so even with that, we actually added a third, I guess you could say, group this year. Are you familiar with like the pep squads?
Oh
Is
yeah.
that
Mhm.
Florida? Okay, so I don't want to say it's not big here, but it's just been like a very traditional like cheer. So cheerleaders would be at football games, they'd be at pep rallies, and it was nothing bad with it, but what we wanted to do was leverage the ambassadors of student spirit, which that's our pep squad, and we wanted them to have more presence across all campus events. So we had them this year at admissions, we had them at our lower school, like just different pieces. So it's not like athletics is operating separate from the school. And I'll tell you, it helped to create just some more continuity across the full experience for all of our kids. And so that group in itself came from SAC. Like, how do we increase student spirit? And then, we all start talking and figure out this was the best way to do it. So all that to say, fast forward to where we are now, our SAT kids are amazing. They come up with this so many different things that as an adult, I would never have thought of. Our most recent conversation has been around social media, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And our school has a pretty strict social media policy in terms of, like, for example, we don't have student run accounts. There has to be an employee that runs accounts, and we just want to make sure kids understand like safety of social media, because as great as it is, there's also a lot of downsides to it. And so one of the things that came from this group was we need a more appealing social media presence. We let the kids give us some ideas. And so now we're in the process of transitioning our main Parker Athletic account from communications into the athletic department. So it might, for some people who aren't as into the social media world, it might not seem like such a big deal, but for us and just the kids knowing that their voice is what really drove that decision, and even them actually putting in the work to do that, was such a big plus for us. So we're super excited going into the new year, January. We're going to start slowly taking over that account, and we're going to start to run it more like how ESPN has like the mic'd up sessions, or just different things that are appealing to the kids. Not us as adults, but to the kids, because at the end of the day, it is their experience, and we're just here to enhance what we had as kids and just give them a positive experience in education-based athletics.
Boy, so many topics there. I want to I want to comment on. I guess let's do the whole pep squad. I think it's an old concept. When I hear that word pep squad, I'm thinking 50s and 60s and leather sweaters and pom poms and things like that. But I think a lot of schools have tried to keep it going, and I think one of the challenges, and we, I think had challenges and tried to meet those challenges at schools where I was the AD, is um, when the parents of our current athletes, when your parents were students, I think there's a lot more opportunity to be involved with things like Pep Squad because there weren't so many teams. When I was in high school, there was no high school soccer, there was no high school lacrosse. It was, these old school teams, and so kids that weren't on teams, they were in the stands, they were cheering their friends. Nowadays, and many generations since I was in high school, those kids are on their own teams now, and so
Yeah.
it's hard to find those dedicated, let's say pep squad type students, and you have to reach into the other teams. How did you meet that particular challenge at Parker?
Well, it's such a good point you say that, because when I got here, what I would deem as like school spirit is kids showing up the games and kids being proud to wear our Parker P. I saw that, consistently saw it everywhere. But then when you talk to the kids and it's like, what does school spirit look like? And when you get the answers, and for them, it was a general consensus of, I want people in the stands, like I want my friends there. But then to your point of, we didn't realize that because our kids are so involved, and when you look at truly the landscape of a student athlete and how our kids are so involved across so many sports, but not even just sports, like our kids are involved in so many clubs. So there's so many things going on. And when you have like a pretty rigorous academic program at your school, kids unfortunately are not, they don't have the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday that they're able to go watch their friend play basketball. And so that's something that we've actually taken into consideration. And we have now what we call a scheduling considerations document where we call out like, hey, you guys cannot have games on Saturdays, limiting holiday weekends, but then Fridays, we're trying to have that like the hype day. We're trying to have it as the day that everyone can kind of be there. But this all came from understanding our kids and understanding what their perspective, what school spirit looked like. And then we also had a change in our coaching staff with the cheer. For our school, we don't have it as comp cheer. It's just sideline. But we knew we wanted something that our kids could be proud of. And when you see cheer, you think, oh, those are the girls that cheer for everybody. And we wanted to get away from the stigma of it's just football and cheer. And no, like these are ambassadors of spirit who are across the full school. And I'm just so grateful that we were able to get a coach. Her name is Miss A here at Parker, the best person for that role. Just somebody who's been here for so long, understands the culture of the school, but also understands the academic and social obligations of our kids. So when she put together this program, it was very, yeah, we're not practicing 5 days a week. We're not going to every game, but she was very intentional on the expectations of the kids. And her group is probably the biggest sports team on campus. So it kind of speaks volumes to not only just taking the student perspective of what these things look like, but having the right person in place that can push that vision forward.
Yeah, I guess maybe two things. Having that in building staff member, teacher, coach, etc., running the club, running the program, or advising it is key. You need
Totally.
that. I call them Pied Pipers. They just bring kids into the program. But you covered this earlier, having student-led organizations where the kids, are really, you know, driving the bus. When you have that, boy, you know that that program is going in the right direction.
Yeah. And you really can't go wrong. Like, I think sometimes when people say like student first, it gets thrown around so often. But when you truly act on student first and sit in meetings where kids are actually having conversation, that to me is the most impactful. That to me is the success of really putting student first for them to have an idea, understand the process, follow up on the process, and then all of a sudden, whatever your vision was is now a reality for us.
You've been at Parker now for a few years, and you mentioned that the previous AD had already put some of this stuff in place. What have you seen as the biggest area of growth, or one of the most satisfying advancements, I guess, since you've been there?
Man, I would say really giving the kids a platform to hear their voices. And it's conversational. And even like when I say when we have these like SAC rep meetings, those ones are the smaller ones where it's like me or 5 to 10 in season athletes. But just to hear not only like what they're saying, but the passion and emotion behind what they're saying, there's nothing more gratifying to me that I can like hear what they're saying and be like, okay, cool, this is a battle worth fighting. Because in our world, it's like, yeah, things sound good, but if you don't navigate these processes correctly, like as the adult, or if I'm not speaking to the right people to make these things happen, it's all this work for nothing. But I like the ability that these kids have to just have this platform that we can talk about real things that impact their experience here. They can get real life feedback from the person who's in charge of all of it, but they also understand the power in their voice and understand that you can have an opinion on something or how we do things, but ask questions. Ask questions till it makes sense. And even if it doesn't make sense, keep asking. And I feel like the more conversation we have, that's kind of the culture we've started to build here of all of us are available, whether you are our front desk, whether you are me, whether you're just an assistant coach for a JV program. Everybody, we try to be available for our kids so that they can have a safe space and a person that they can go to talk about anything.
As you get started on this new year, what are some ideas? You mentioned this earlier that the kids come up with ideas that you would never have thought of. I know I would never have thought of them. You probably would have got them eventually. But what are some of those unique ideas that the students have come up that you've seen? Well, let's say they've played out successfully, and then again, we all have great ideas, but sometimes they just don't work out. Any memorable student suggestions that you tried and you just, I guess this didn't work out?
Yeah. Well, the coolest one right now with in addition to the social media platform is also the design of our practice shirts. So 2 years ago, oh no, last year we had this design of just it was a Parker P athletics, and then on the back it said no limit to better. So that was a shirt that every student athlete got. You kept it, you can keep it as for whatever. But then this year it was like the same design, just a different color. And the kids were like, is there any way that we can just redesign this so that each season has a specific design? So, for example, the P athletics would stay, and then on the back, it's all the in-season fall sports, and you would just have that by season. So in our most recent meeting a couple weeks ago, I kid you not, it was the coolest thing to see. We start talking about this. One of our basketball girls, as we're talking, like, hey, Coach Mina, don't mind me. She starts sketching. We have a person from communications that's in this meeting. He's kind of facilitating to them and teaching them about the process of this. She starts sketching these things out. Within 5 minutes, she hands it to his name is Mr. Cameron, hands it to him. Jake, it was the coolest thing to just see it all play out in real time. But she came up with this design. He that day went designed it and sent it back to me in a Canva draft. I brought it back to the kids. They voted at it in the general meeting, and now we have designs for the upcoming seasons. But just that piece alone of just seeing things play out in live time, but the kids everything coming directly from them. My whole point in that was just sitting there and yes, no, maybe, whatever. But the kids literally did the whole thing on their own. And they were just so excited because it was something that came from them and it's something that is for them. So it was a cool process to see.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. Another thing that you brought up earlier was reaching out and partnering with the ASB, the student body leaders. And sometimes you have some crossover. Those, the student body president might be an athlete, student athlete on the team. Sometimes there can be some, let's say, some turf issues and maybe some jealousies. Have you encountered any of that, or what were some things that you did intentionally to prevent those turf wars from happening?
Thankfully, I'm so glad that we have people that are very growth mindset, very like the more we can do together, the less overlap of work that we have. And our ASB people are awesome. It was just a quick like, hey, our athletes are all in your leadership. We need to figure out ways that we can increase like student spirit. And one of the biggest ones, which was so simple, was a theme night because ASB had their theme nights, but on this end, we didn't have anything to tell parents like, hey, today's blackout night, make sure you wear like a black shirt. And so now it's like they're in their world of doing things. And on our side, we're working together to just make sure our communication is consistent and it's accurate across our community.
Well, but I'm just really intrigued. I don't want to keep you on here all day, but um, is there a project coming up or a next level, or have the kids got something big planned that you're getting ready to unleash here for 2026?
I think we'll have to save that for our next video segment. I
I
mean,
love it. We put the teaser out there. Okay.
I'm telling you.
Okay. Well, In the meantime, if one of our listeners wants to reach out, pick your brain just a little bit more. You don't have to give away any big secrets, but find out how you run things at Francis Parker, or if they just want to add you to their network, what's the best way that our listeners can connect with Dr. Mahina Hannemann-Gago, CMAA?
Yes. So I would say my email address is super long. Otherwise, I'd give that. But even if you're actually no, I'll just give it. So it's my first initial, so M, my last name, HANNEMANNGAGO at francisparker.org. That would probably be the easiest. If not, you can hit up Jake. Jake has my contact. I'm always available to connect with anybody.
We'll put the information in the show notes, but as Mahina said, go to Francis Parker, check out the website. Very cool website, by the way. She's also listed in the NIAAA membership portal, and you can probably connect with her on LinkedIn as well. Mahina, always great to hang out with you. We're going to have to get you out here to Florida, maybe at our state
I know.
conference, and all the best for a great 2026.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Jake. Happy holidays. Have a good New Year.
Right back at you. And to our listeners, the same thing. And just a reminder, we upload the Zoom recordings of all of these interviews to the Educational Lady Podcast YouTube channel. We do Wednesday Wisdom just about every week, and just about every day we try to share stories and best practices. So please come back and join us again on the next episode of the Educational AD Podcast. Wow, what a great segment. Before we go, we always want to recognize our sponsors. Now, remember, these are companies that I used as an AD. You should be using them too. Big shout out to Beacon Creative Wall of Fame. I want to say thanks to Gipper. I want to say thanks to Huddle and Athletic Surveys. Thank you to Sideline Interactive and Home Campus. I want to say thanks to Ohio University and K-12 Sports Tech, and a big thank you to Hometown. Please go and visit these sponsors. You're going to be glad you did. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time on the Educational AD Podcast.